Hello, my ancestral name is Pulxaneeks, and I'm here today with the lovely Devon. Going to ask her some questions to get to the heart of it. And I am currently on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people and unceded Coast Salish land, the territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish Nation in the place now known as Vancouver, BC, Canada. And I'm going to ask some questions to Devon here, and I hope you enjoy. So Devon, welcome. We're working on a project together at the Awakened Women Convergence happening this October in the place now known as Arizona. And I've been called on board on the team with you and Phoenix as the Indigenous Relations Director, connecting us with the Indigenous people of that Arizona area. And so I understand that your role on this team is to be the community manager. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear, share a bit about your background and upbringing.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, I was born in the territory of the traditional territory of the Tongva Nation, which is the place now known as Orange County, and it's in Southern California. And I grew up in a very boring suburban area. With my parents are divorced. I grew up with a single mother and my younger brother, who's 3 years younger than me. And him and I are very close. And my dad, I saw every other weekend. He lives about 30 minutes away. And I had a very, I think in the one sense from the outside, looked like a very standard childhood. But in another sense, there's lots going on under the surface. I think both my parents finding their own way after their divorce, as well as me finding my own way, being very different from my own family in my own personal beliefs, and when I came to find ways of living that worked for me that are very different from my upbringing. What else can I say about myself? I grew up doing lots of dance, and I've always been very creative, and that was very important to me growing up, was my connection to dance. And now I am also a visual artist, which is a big part of me as well.
Awesome. So I want to acknowledge how far away we were in our upbringing, but sharing the same coast. My ancestors come from the place now known as Kitimat. Okay. I come from the Haisla Nation, and growing up, I was always told these different ancestral stories where it was like, oh, this big thing happened and everybody knew about it, all the way from Alaska down through to California. And so when I thought about the kind of greater expansion of what I consider my home is the West Coast. And so just honoring that you and I grew up beside the same ocean.
Yeah.
And just acknowledging how culture and being and people are shaped by the land and the waters and the elements, and just honoring in this moment this commonality that you and I have as people, having grown up beside the same coast. Yeah. So giving thanks for that. So I'd love to hear, Devon, what would you say is the value of having me be a part of this team in my role of the Indigenous Relations person?
Yeah. Well, other than the fact that I've loved getting to know you, I know something that was very important to Phoenix, who is the founder of the Awakened Women Convergence, is because the conference is going to be in Arizona this year, and it's very close to the Hopi Nation. She really wanted to involve the Indigenous people within this movement. And, I really share that same desire with her. But I think both her and I, as much as we have that desire, we don't have a whole lot of experience. And both of us wanted to be very respectful and sensitive. And just with our backgrounds, we just did not really have the knowledge on how to go about building those relationships. And so, bringing you on is like, you just have so much wisdom in this department, so much heart, and so much to offer, that not only are her and I learning from you and our paradigms are shifting, but I think that you're going to be so instrumental in helping us build these relationships and being able to include the Indigenous people whose land we're being so, whose land we're holding this convergence on. And so, I really see you as somebody who's really able to speak to our audience about the importance of this work, and then also speak to the Indigenous Hopi people as well, to really be able to include them in a way that feels honoring. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is quite the journey we're on. I know, like, here in Canada, the common ground of the environmental movement creates this place for the two peoples, anyone who cares about the environment, really, to come together. And from what I've seen, this has created this connecting place between peoples. And in Canada, there's more of a predominant Indigenous presence. As soon as you get to the airport in Vancouver, there's Native art everywhere, and any kind of conscious gathering that I go to, oftentimes the person on the microphone will get up, and first thing they'll do is acknowledge the territory of the people that the whatever the gathering is being hosted on.
Yeah.
And that is, I'm learning, very unique to us.
That is very unique. Yeah.
It is. And so when I speak with Indigenous people of the place now known as United States, and I tell them about this, it's like describing a foreign concept. and so it's really like, it's quite the journey that we're on to bring the spirit of this culture that we're a part of. Phoenix and I are a part of here, in the place now known as BC and Canada. And saying, like, we want to honor you as Indigenous people, and just taking it one step at a time, and staying in our hearts and doing what we can, and remaining open and respectful. So I'd love to hear, Devon, if you could finish the sentence. I was born during a time when.
Yeah, to give that a little bit of thought. First thing that comes to mind, I was born during a time when it almost, to me, so I was born in 1991. So it seems to me that the 90s is kind of this, to me, in my own personal mind, I see it as like the last of kind of the dark ages. It's like this last bit of period of time before people really started waking up. And so I feel like the 90s is kind of just that, like, last little bit where people are kind of still prescribing to normal paradigms. People are still kind of okay with the way society is. Of course, there's revolutionaries and people who are awake all throughout history, but I feel like right as I was coming into my early adulthood is where this, honoring of the divine feminine started, like, really coming more into mainstream awareness. So I would say I was born in a time when I got to experience this last little bit of, like, the darkness right before I feel like much more light started rushing in. And of course, that's just my own subjective perspective. But that's what comes to mind for me. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So, welcoming you to finish the sentence, as a white person.
As a white person, I feel like I really want to help give voice to people who don't have as much of a voice. I would say not even just as a white person, but as a privileged white person. I feel very passionate about helping any group of people who's been marginalized or oppressed have more of a voice. And I think it really is the responsibility of the people who have more of a platform to stand on to speak for the people who don't. So that's for me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That feels really good in my heart to hear you share those words and to acknowledge privilege. That's a big step, because you can't heal what you don't acknowledge, or you can't really, if it stays in a place of oblivion, then we can't work with it. So right use of privilege is really what comes to awareness when I hear you share that, and that just, I really want to honor that. That feels really good in my heart to hear you acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I'd love to ask, Devon, is what does your heart want to say to the heart of the Indigenous people?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, just like right off the bat, is I'm so sorry. And I don't know if that's appropriate coming from me or not, but that's the first thing that comes to mind, is just, I'm so sorry for the grief and the pain and the wrongness that you and your ancestors have been through. That's the main thing that comes through. And then the second thing is, I really want to learn. I want to learn more about, how we can restore relationships and heal. I think that's the big thing, is how we can heal and how we can do that together in a way that feels good for everybody. And I feel really just open to that, because the truth is I don't know. It's not my area, and so it's just like, I just want to communicate an openness to learning and knowing.
Thank you so much. And I want to just reflect back what it's like for me as an Indigenous person to hear that, to hear your words, and it feels really big. This apology that you offer it's almost like I don't know where to put it.
Yeah.
I'm like, where do I start? and it's a spark on a bigger journey, and I want to acknowledge you as a space holder of that healing, and as a messenger from your ancestors at this time, carrying that message of a heartfelt apology, and just honoring the courage that it takes to stand in that. And I feel a sense of responsibility in having bared witness to that, in that, okay, now I have to do something with this. Now I have to do something with this apology. How am I going to receive it? What am I going to apply it to? And so it's really big. It's really big. And I give thanks. I give thanks for walking this path with you, for being on this journey with you. And I honor your presence, and I honor your willingness to show up in this moment for this kind of conversation. This is what healing looks like. This is what reconciliation looks like. And I just really acknowledge you, Devon, for showing up with all your heart in this moment. And may all our relations feel the impact and benefit from this sharing at this time, and acknowledging all the unseen forces at play bringing us together in this moment, in this life, acknowledging the ancestors and the spirit guides, and honoring the places in the hearts of the ones who are hearing this, honoring that place in the hearts of the ones who are receiving these words, and all the ways that it's landing and impacting. And giving thanks. So this concludes. What's that?
I just wanted to say too, thank you so much for creating this space, and I think it's such important work that you're doing. So I want to acknowledge you for that as well. So thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're so very welcome. All right. So this concludes this sharing at this time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.